Welcome to the Murfreesboro City Council meeting. It is July 2nd. If you'll bow with me, and then we'll say the Pledge of Allegiance. Father, I thank you for this night, for the chance in the upcoming days that we get to celebrate the 250th anniversary of our country. Lord, I thank you for the things that you've blessed this country with, the people you've blessed this country with, but most importantly, your grace. Lord, be with us. Be with all the families and people who need your Lord, we just ask for those people who have spoken and unspoken prayers, to all those that are hurting and all those that need help. We ask this in your name. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, Aaron, do we have anyone registered to speak tonight?
No, sir.
Okay. All right, you have 7 items on your consent agenda.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Ms. Scales Harris.
Aye.
Mr. Maxwell.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Shacklet.
Aye.
Mr. Wade. Aye. Mr. Wright.
Aye.
Mayor McFarland.
Abstain. You have several meetings of city council minutes. Any additions or deletions to the minutes?
So moved. Second.
Motion is second. Please call the roll.
Ms. Scales Harris.
Aye.
Mr. Maxwell.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Shacklet.
Aye.
Mr. Wade. Aye. Mr. Wright.
Aye.
Mayor McFarland.
Aye. All right, let's move to new business. You have land use matters, a PRD zoning amendment for property along O Green Cove and RT Johnson Drive. Mr. Blomley.
Good evening, Mayor McFarland and members of council. Our first public hearing tonight is a PRD amendment on a 1.45 acre lot located in the Battleground Place subdivision. Property is currently zoned PRD, planned.
You have to put $5 in the jar whenever the ringer goes out. So that's all right. No worries.
The Battleground Place subdivision is zoned PRD, Planned Residential District. That was zoned that way about 25 years ago. Since that time, Swanson has built out that subdivision. You can see it on the map in front of you. It's this area here. That's not doing what I wanted it to do. But this is the lot, the 1.45 acre lot, where the original house to the development tract was located. It has remained on the property since the subdivision was developed. And Swanson has requested a PRD amendment so that they could build 10 single-family attached townhome units on this property. The subject area is directly adjacent to commercial zoning and uses located along West Northfield Boulevard. You see that there is the Ford dealership to the south and southwest, and there is a self-storage development directly to the west. Of course, to the east and to the north are located homes that are in the Battleground Place subdivision, zoned PRD, and then further to the east are other single-family residential uses that are zoned RS10. As I mentioned, they wish to develop 10 single-family attached townhomes. The adopted Murfreesboro 2035 Comprehensive Plan Future Land Use Map identifies this parcel, as it does the rest of the subdivision, as SR Suburban Residential, which is really exclusively for single-family detached homes. However, the City Council may wish to determine whether or not this is an appropriate instance to use the transition policy in the comprehensive plan, considering that it directly abuts commercial highway zoning and uses to the west. The Planning Commission conducted a public hearing on this matter on May the 6th and then voted to recommend approval at that time. Mr. Matt Taylor with SCC has a brief presentation that he would like to give you, and I'll be happy to answer any questions before or after the public hearing. Oh, and this was also at the inaugural Joint Conceptual Workshop meeting back in October. And so this should look familiar to you because you saw it way back when in the fall.
Thank you, Mr. Blumley. Mayor, members of council, I'm Matt Taylor of SEC. I've got my client, Mr. Joe 3 Swanson, with me as well, of Swanson Companies, the applicants on the project. I've got a brief presentation over what we've called Battleground Place. Mr. Blumley said the site's about 1.5 acres at the intersection of R.T. Johnson and Old Green Cove, highlighted here in the pink and white. Today, it's got an existing house as well as a few other outbuilding structures on the property. As Mr. Blumley said, today it is zoned PRD as part of the original Battleground Place PRD. This piece is part of the original Families Tract. They have seen the rest of it develop and are ready to sell. And then the future land use map does call for suburban residential, but we feel like that it's more of a transition area because of the commercial that has developed both to the west and to the south, and that this acts as that transition and buffer zone to the rest of the neighborhood. Some existing pictures of the property. This is looking into property from O'Green. It's looking across the street. That's the existing house on the property. Some more from the northwest, the existing outbuilding or barn. This is looking directly south. The plant itself is 10 acres on just under 1.5 acres, so it's a density right at 6.9 units to the acre. We have provided open space and formal open space. That formal open space is in that northwest corner. All of our streets will be private streets. We'd have one access point off of O'Green Drive. Those private streets, we would also utilize private trash pickup for that. And then everything would be managed by a third-party HOA, and all of our owners here would be part of that HOA. We will not be selling these to a bulk retail or a rental community. We plan to develop these, plat them as an HPR, and sell them off to individuals. As I said, these will be sold to an HPR, be a minimum size of 1,400 square feet and at least 2 bedrooms. Each one will have space either in the garage or in the driveway for 4 cars. And then these will be 1 or 2 stories, maximum height of 35 feet, which is what you can build there today. Front entry garage, and then all of them will have at least a 24-inch water table on all 4 sides. Some example elevations. You can see the front has a lot of in and out, a lot of roofline variation, attractive little front elevation. Again, these are private roads with 1 access point, so the HOA will maintain this road. And it will look very much like a city standard street, except we'll push the sidewalks to the back of curb instead of having the grass strip. Our open space will consist of a pergola, some seating areas, fire pits, really a kind of a community gathering spot. And it'll be flanked by a pet park or dog park, if you will, in that northwest corner. And it will have landscape buffers on the north, south, and west. They'll vary in type depending on which location they are. And then we will have along a portion of the south and along the entire north, that buffer will have a fence with it as well. Some examples of those buffers. And then my client did host a neighborhood meeting. I don't think that anybody actually showed up. I think and we did not have anybody come to Planning Commission, but I'll be happy to answer any questions now or after the hearing.
Any questions for Mr. Taylor? All right, seeing none, we need to open a public hearing to discuss this rezoning of 1.45 acres. If you wish to speak, please come to the podium. If you'll keep all of your comments directed to the City Council, we'll get those answered at the end of the public hearing. If you're speaking on behalf of an HOA or a group, you get 5 minutes. As an individual, 3 minutes. Anyone wishing to speak, please come to the podium. All right. right, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and we'll now consider on first reading ordinance 26OZ23.
I think this looks good. So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Ms. Gels Harris. Aye. Mr. Maxwell.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Shacklet. Mr. Wade. Mr. Wright.
Aye.
Mayor McFarland.
Aye. All right, let's move to item 10, Plan of Services Annexation and Zoning for Property along Halls Hill Pike. Mr. Blomley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is the first of two public hearings that we'll be having for 17.48 acres located along the south side of Halls Hill Pike. And just for the benefit of the folks in the audience, the first public hearing is strictly for the annexation and the plan of services that denotes how we can serve the property if we annexed it. The second public hearing will be for the zoning, which will detail the proposed development plan. So focusing on the annexation and the plan of services first, as I mentioned, this 17.48 acres is located along the south side of Halls Hill Pike, located to the south of, I believe that's called Heritage Place condominiums. And there's an apartment complex and a single-family development further to the north of that. To the northeast along Halls Hill Pike, on the south side of the road are some commercial and institutional uses located in the unincorporated county. And then along the north side of Halls Hill Pike is a self-service storage facility located in the city limits. To the south of the subject property are larger single-family residential lots in the unincorporated county. And then, as you can see, further to the northwest is the Rutherford Green single-family attached zero-lot line development. Just to orient you to where this property is located. No right-of-way has been included in the annexation study area because the right-of-way of Halls Hill Pike directly in front of the study area is already located in the city limits. You'll recall that 15 years or so ago, the county had a road project along Halls Hill Pike to widen that to 3 lanes with a center turn lane and sidewalks as well. You heard a presentation on this item at the October inaugural joint conceptual workshop. Because this property is actually located, even though it's within our urban growth boundary, it's located outside of our adopted service infill line. However, we brought this to the joint conceptual workshop for you to consider whether or not it would be appropriate to move forward. Since then, we've had some discussions about not allowing a public street to be the border of the service infill line, so that we're really capturing both sides of the street within the service infill boundary instead of just one side of the street. And so we're in the process right now of preparing to move forward with an amendment to the future land use map to modify the service infill boundary in several areas, including this one. For this one specifically, based upon the feedback that we received, Mr. Newman made a presentation about modifying that service infill line at that joint conceptual workshop. With regards to the annexation of this particular property, the plan of services has been included in the agenda materials, and the provision of services to the subject property would be relatively easy if the property were to be annexed. Sewer is actually located in the right-of-way of Halls Hill Pike and can serve this property upon development. And it's directly adjacent to existing city limits and existing city development, so our rolling services will be able to serve this property relatively easily as well. Planning Commission considered the annexation and plan of services at its May 6th regular meeting, at which time it voted to recommend approval of the annexation and plan of services to you. And so I'll be happy to answer any questions. With it being an annexation, Mr. Taylor doesn't have a presentation on the annexation itself, but he could also answer questions if you had any for him as well.
Any questions on the plan of services and the annexation? All right, we'll need to open this public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak for the annexation or the public hearing, please come to the podium.
My name is Joyce Carlton, and I own the property at 706 and 709 Kathy Court. And I border this proposed development for about 450 feet of property. My concern is a drainage easement that was recorded in 1957 that was incorrectly recorded. Huddleston Engineering redrew the drainage easement, and the new owner of this property has declined to approve it. The last that I heard from Matt Taylor of SEC was they were planning on maybe diverting the water. My only concern is that the water that pools in my parcel, which is 2.5 acres, has a way to get out and down to the box culvert on the far end of this development. Thank you.
Can you tell me your name one more time?
Joyce Carlton.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Carlton.
Carlton, I'm looking at the map. I know you can't see the map because it's not up there on the screen.
It'll be on this screen, I think.
Is it on that screen?
Yeah, it's on the screen right in front of you. I think she's the properties, there's two properties at the cul-de-sac of Kathy Court, I believe.
Yeah,
Correct.
Yeah.
Which one is yours?
There's 3 properties here, 706, 709, and then the parcel behind 709. And I also own 707.
So it's there on the screen?
Yes, it's on the screen. If you look at the open spaces
Yeah.
to the left-hand corner, where the 3 property lines meet,
Yes, ma'am.
those are my properties there.
Okay, that's what I was asking. Thank you.
Okay.
Anyone else wishing to speak on the annexation of the plan of services? All right, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. We'll consider on first reading. And Ms. Carlton, we'll get your drainage question answered at the next session. Okay. Anyone, we need to, the public hearing is closed, so we'll consider on first reading this plan of services and annexation request. So it'd be Resolution 26R PSA 24.
Second.
Motion and second. Please call the roll.
Ms. Skels Harris. Aye. Mr. Maxwell.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Shacklet. Aye. Mr. Wade. Aye. Mr. Wright.
Aye.
Mayor McFarland.
Aye. All right. Let's move to the public hearing for the rezoning. And so that first public hearing, just for anyone, y'all don't have to, we're still going to do the rezoning request. I think this is the one y'all came here for. Yeah, so, yeah, this is, yeah, so we have 2 public hearings. State law changed several years ago. We just voted to say that we could service the property if we rezoned it. So that if this doesn't pass, then the annexation is no good. So we've got one more public hearing. All right, Matt.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is for the companion zoning request to PRD simultaneous with annexation. The development of the property into a residential development with 39 single-family detached homes and 39 single-family attached townhome units. The subject property, as I mentioned, is located on the south side of Halls Hill Pike. I went over the surrounding land uses earlier. The property directly across the street is also zoned PRD, and then the apartments are RM16. And surrounding on all 3 other sides is county, is the unincorporated county. So, as I mentioned, the applicant wishes to build 39 single-family detached lots and 39 single-family attached townhome units with the layout here. Mr. Taylor will go over in detail the proposed development here in just a moment. The future land use map of the Murfreesboro Comprehensive Plan, as I mentioned and during the previous presentation, does not identify this with a land use character. And the reason is because it is outside of the service infill line. And so that green that's on the map before you represents future study area. As I mentioned, we're preparing to move forward with a an amendment to the future land use map that will take in the south side of Halls Hill Pike into the service infill line. In the meantime, the planning director has recommended that the AUR, future land use character, be used for future land use for this area. The AUR stands for Auto Urban Residential, which recommends a density of 4 to 12 dwelling units per acre, which this development is on the very low end of that recommendation. In general, it is consistent with the AUR future land use character, and with the exception of the fact that the AUR future land use character recommends a maximum of 40% of the gross number of units be allowed to be single-family attached townhomes. In this development, there are proposed to be 50% of townhomes relative to the gross number of units. The Planning Commission conducted a public hearing on this matter on May the 6th, at which time it voted to recommend approval. We'll mention that there was some feedback and some discussion during that meeting, primarily centering around drainage. And so there was some good discussion at that meeting. Mr. Taylor is prepared to discuss and answer questions about drainage, and we've also got Ms. Katie Knoll, our project engineer from the Planning Department, here in attendance as well, should you have questions of her. Mr. Taylor has a brief presentation that he would like to give you on the proposed development.
Thank you, Matthew. Mayor, members of council, Matt Taylor of SEC. I do have a brief presentation over what we've called Bryson Farms, located along Halls Hill Pike. As Mr. Blomley said, it's about 17.5 acres on the south side of Halls Hill Pike, just east of Rutherford Boulevard and west of Flat Rock Road. Today, the property is mostly open pasture and some wooded areas, along with several outbuildings and an existing home. As Mr. Blomley said, it's still out in the county, RM, so we've requested simultaneous rezoning with that annexation. And then the future land use map calls it for the FSA. With that AUR, we're generally in compliance with the AUR land use designation, with the exception of requesting a little bit extra attached, single-family attached mix overall. This is looking onto the property from Halls Hill Pike. This is looking directly across the street. This will be where our entrance road lines up. Some more views of the property. At one of those outbuildings, some of that pasture land. The plan itself allows for 78 total homes on the property. That's a density of about 4.5 units to the acre, well inside that AUR density characteristics. We have split that 50-50 between the detached and attached. We think that the extra percentage there is warranted based on our extra open space, our enhanced architecture, feel like, and the drainage improvements that we're going to do on the site. Feel like all those things add up to allow for that extra 10% on the attached. While I'm on this screen, I will talk about drainage a little bit. And so if I can figure this out. So I think this is Miss Joyce's property where I just highlighted the red. And so there, we've studied this pretty significantly. There's a decent amount of water that comes onto the site here, and then roughly here, and then there's another inflow from the east. And so the south, we will primarily pipe through the site, kind of like that. The box culvert that the county installed is about that X right there. From the from the east, it'll go into an existing sinkhole here. That will fill up and over top, and it'll get back into this same system back over to the box culvert, just like it does today. Coming from Ms. Joyce's direction, what we're What we're going to do is install basically a bypass channel like this that gets back to that same box culvert. And so today, the easement that Ms. Joyce talked about, the path is kind of like that, except for it's really just through the middle of a field. You know, there's nothing really, there's no structure, nothing engineered to that. And so what we're going to do, like we do a lot of times, is come in and actually construct a system so that that water flows better. I'm not saying that we're going to solve all the pooling on her backyard, because the high point is actually over on her property. And so it's a little higher than it breaks over onto us. But what we're not going to do is we're not going to dam up water. We're not going to send more water her direction. And we're going to try to make the system on our site better so that it flows better and flows to the north. And so once it gets underneath Halls Hill Pike, it has a pretty good drainage system that's been engineered and developed over the years. It actually gets back, circles around, and enters at about Gold Valley Trail, where it intersects back with Rutherford Boulevard, into back to the, I forget if that section is called Big Ditch or Son of Big Ditch, but it's one of the projects the city actually constructed and took the lead on that drainage project, I think 20 or 30 years ago, and really solved a lot of drainage problems along this corridor. And so once we get it to that, we feel certain that it can handle that. So we've got a good plan, and we'll develop all those sizes and those pipes and those ditches with our construction plans. The project, just like the last one, we will not be selling this to a bulk developer for rental. This will be sold to individuals for living. Each of those homeowners will have to be a member of the HOA. That will be managed by a third-party association. Our detached, which I said was about 50%, those are a minimum of 6,000 square feet. Their typical lot sizes are about 52 by 120. The lots along the southern line, so like 5 through 25 here, are much deeper in nature. The interior lots tend to be the more typical size here. The red asterisks represent enhanced architecture. That's where you can really see the side elevations, so they will wrap and enhance those side elevations on those homes, just like we've been doing across many of our neighborhoods the past 5 to 10 years, I would say. These setbacks are very typical for what you've been seeing in most of our communities. 35 feet to the front garage. We are allowing, if it's a recessed garage, to have a 25-foot setback to the structure, but the garage itself will maintain 35 feet so that you got 4 cars in the driveway, and then a 20-foot rear and a 5-foot side. We do have some of our single-family detached will be alley loaded, and so you won't see a garage on the front side. Here we'll strictly have that 25-foot front setback, and then the rear will still have a 35-foot rear setback, so you continue to have the 4 cars even in the back. These will be 1 or 2 stories. They'll have at least 2 bedrooms, and they'll all, with the exception of the alley load, they will be 2-car front entry garages. All the homes will have at least a 24-inch water table on all 4 sides. Some example elevations. Some of these don't show the water table on the sides, but it will be there. There will be no vinyl here. It will all be brick, stone, or cement board. It's a lot of variety. This is an example of that enhanced elevation. You can see extra windows, that wrapped porch. It helps to address that side street extremely well. The attached, these will all be sold via HPR, horizontal property regime. There'll be a minimum of 1,300 square feet, and again, have at least 2 bedrooms. These, again, will be all for sale here as well. We have distributed guest parking amongst this area, shown here, highlighted in yellow. We more than adequately park the site. And then these, excuse me, these will still have the 24-inch water table on all 4 sides, have at least a 2-car garage. It will all be rear entry, though. All of these homes will either face Halls Hill Pike or front on our interior green space. And then our setbacks here are still very typical. The main one here is probably that 35 feet on the rear so that you can get the 4 cars in the driveway. These are a couple of examples of the style and architecture in the rear. The red here represents public streets. The blue will be private. The private streets will be maintained by the HOA. We do have one access point on the Halls Hill with the red circle, and then we allow for 2 stubs into adjoining properties in the yellow so that those can get extended on in the future if and when the properties adjoining us develop. The road sections, we're using city standard road sections, nothing abnormal here, along with the private alley. And then our main amenity is that central green space inside the community. It's very walkable. The neighborhood's very small, easily accessible. So we'll have a tot lot here as well as some open play area to let the kids get out and play Frisbee or flag football or have a picnic. And then we'll have landscaping around our detention pond. We will also have some beautification type plantings along Halls Hill Pike shown in the green. And then we'll have some formal buffering in that northeast corner where the pink is, just because we're pretty close to the existing home there with the attached product. Some examples, we do have a fence planned on the southwest. And then the exceptions that we talked about were the 40 to 50% on the attached. And then we have requested an exception for that secondary setback on the townhome to go from 35 to 20. And that's really just a design type element. And then we did host a neighborhood meeting, as Mr. Blomley said. At that meeting, as well as at our Planning Commission public hearing, I think most of the conversation focused around drainage. I feel like we've got a good plan. We actually met with Ms. Joyce at my office, I think it was right before the neighborhood meeting. And so, yeah, we think we got a good plan. We shared then, as well as Planning Commission, that as our construction plans develop, we're happy to reset down with her and walk through those and show her what that is, or any other neighbor for that fact. So we're very accessible and very familiar with this. We've seen this property and the challenges over the years, so we feel confident in our solutions. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Taylor?
Matt, is there any concern you've got on the right of the screen, the left of the screen, you've got basically the 2 detention ponds going into basically the one culvert? Has that ever been an issue in the past with any development, or?
No, sir. And so I think that box culvert was sized for kind of the whole basin as it sits today. And then what we will do with our pond is essentially if there's 5 buckets an hour flowing off there today, that's what we can let leave that pond after we're done. And so we will mimic or improve or minimize how much is leaving there today. And matter of fact, I think that MTSU's actually done some improvements upstream with some of their large ponds that you can see from Rutherford Boulevard that have helped the situation as well, I believe. And I think that was done either around the same time as Halls Hill or maybe just after.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right, if there are no other questions, we'll open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak for or against, please come to the podium. Ms. Joyce. Or Ms. Carlton.
Yes, Ms. Carlton, Joyce Carlton. My concern is the water coming off of my property that's supposed to flow across Bryson Farms. When Riley Clark developed this back in the 50s, he dug 100 feet onto Bryson's property and hit rock and stopped. And the water has always backed up in our neighborhood. And from what I'm understanding Matt to say, he's going to divert the water down the west side of the property up towards Halls Hill Pike and then run parallel with Halls Hill Pike. And he's been very nice, and he's shared information with me, and I just want to make sure that the amount of water that comes into my property will be handled to get down to the box culvert. I'm just here to let my voice be heard, so,
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
thank you.
Hi, I'm Karen Pippin. I live at 2720 Oak Point Street, which is Twin Oak subdivision lot 10. It's up the street, it's up from there, up from this property. But on May the 9th of last year, of 24, I got some pictures here y'all can look at. I've lived there 36 years. Never had water in my house, under my house, anywhere. It's been in the yard and stuff, and they built 5 or 6 houses right down from me. And the more they build, the more water we're getting. And they say this water's not gonna affect me, but it is affecting me. So I don't know what we can do. I had over, you can see under my house, I put it 4 block high so it would never get my ductwork or anything if it ever did get up, but it never been there. In 36 years, it never been there. Well, 34, I guess, in 24. It never had been there. But it sure did then. And it's because they're building all these other houses, and they just keep building them around me, and more water comes in. He said I can come and see him in his office, and we can discuss it, but I don't think it ought to be done. Because you're just gonna build up in there and push more water on us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, I got 2 porches a day, and every step I had, my bottom step was underwater.
Can I get your address again?
All around my house.
Yes, ma'am. Can I get your address again?
2720 Oak Point.
Oak Point, okay. All right, anyone else wishing to speak for or against? All right, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. We'll now consider on first reading ordinance 26 OZ 24. We did have a couple of questions. Mr. Taylor. Ms. Carlin had asked the question about the amount of water to get from her property to the box culvert, on how that would be handled.
Yes, sir. So whenever we do our construction plans, we'll do a drainage study that models how much is coming from each of these 3 directions that I pointed out earlier. And so whatever comes from her direction, we're going to size that channel however wide and deep. And we're going to be limited on depth because we're right up against neighbors, and we don't want to raise that water surface elevation. And so however wide that channel needs to be, we'll have to make it that width. And so we'll do that through our drainage calculations for the entire neighborhood, and we'll take into account what's coming from her site as well as from the south as well as to the east.
Matt, you're going to look at 2720 Oak Point too as well?
Yes, Councilman. I think she came in early and was talking to Katie, so they waved me over. I believe that hers is on the other side of a ridge from us, so I don't think ours and hers are necessarily the same water, I'll say. But I'm happy to sit down with her and talk through that. And it's hard for me to see all of it on my phone, but happy to meet with her. So if I can give her my card before she leaves here, we can have afternoon tea at my office or something.
I'm just looking at Oak Point. I just wanted to make sure, but Oak Point it looks like it's, if you were to draw a line from Alumni Drive on Rutherford Boulevard.
Yeah, it's kind of to the south and east of this property. And it looks like it's going into, I think it's Double Springs Branch maybe, which goes into. Yes, and so I think that goes into a large sinkhole kind of to the northeast of her house, but,
Yeah, so if y'all don't mind, so look, we really want to try to keep, ma'am, if you don't mind, we really want to try to keep from everybody commenting from, next thing you know, we just got complete chaos going, so thank you.
but we're happy to sit down with her
Okay.
and walk through those and see if there's something we can help with. If there is, we'll be happy to do it.
Matt, will this actually help this area?
Typically, our engineered systems do, yes, sir. It gives the water a better, faster path to go.
Okay.
Right now, I've seen the document that Mr. Carlton mentioned earlier on the easement, and there's really nothing there. You know, I don't know what happened 50 years ago or however that long ago that was. It very well could have been rock, but we don't get those excuses today. You know, at the end of the day, I have to go certify it. Y'all got really good inspectors out there all the time. You don't sign the plats until it's right. And so there's a lot more checks and balances than there were 50, 70 years ago. So, and Ms. Carlton's right. I told my client not to record the new document because I did not want to muddy the water. I said, whatever, I didn't want the county to go spend dollars when we're going to tear it up and completely redo it. So we're going to achieve the same thing in a no cost to the taxpayer.
I just have I know MTSU has got a couple of retention ponds on Rutherford on both sides.
Yes, sir.
So is the majority of all their parking lot water going into those retention ponds?
It does, and those ponds will capture and retain that water. I think in some extreme events, they may still spill over, but in your, I don't know, I didn't do the calculations, but in your regular events, your less frequent or more frequent events, it completely captures that water, and that's what they were intended to do. There are really some flood control devices, from what I can tell, and in conversations with Mr. Huddleston previously, years ago, he reiterated that.
Any questions for Mr. Taylor? All right, any questions for Mr. Taylor?
Move for approval.
Motion is second. Ms. Tucker, please call the roll.
Ms. Gels Harris. Mr. Maxwell.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Shacklet. Mr. Wade. Mr. Wright.
Aye.
Mayor McFarland.
Aye. All right, let's move to item 10, rezoning for property along Cason Lane.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Our final public hearing tonight is for 14.61 acres located along the west side of Cason Lane, just to the north of New Salem Highway. There we go. Property is, the very northern quarter of the property is zoned OG, Office General District, and that's colored in orange on the map before you. And the area in blue is currently zoned CF, Commercial Fringe District, and it makes up about 75% of the requested area. The applicants are requesting to rezone it to PRD, Planned Residential District, for a single-family detached development called Cason Terrace. Just to orient you a little bit more to what is in the vicinity of the subject property, directly to the south is the Walmart Neighborhood Market and Gas Station located along New Salem Highway. There's also an Exxon gas station there. To the north of the subject property is an apartment complex, And to the east of the subject property, across Cason Lane, is another apartment complex. And there is a small commercial development located also on the extension of Foxcroft Road that is zoned PCD and CF, but has yet to develop out with actual buildings yet. Directly to the west of the subject property is a large tract that is zoned CH, Commercial Highway, and RM16. Further to the west is PRD for the Bell Tower apartment complex. As I mentioned, the request is to rezone this property to PRD. This property probably looks familiar to you. Back in 2025, you considered a sewer variance and a rezoning for this and deferred both items and expressed some concerns regarding the proposed density. That was the same applicant, but it was for a totally different product. It was for a townhome development with 94 single-family attached townhome units. The applicants have come back and submitted a totally different plan and started from scratch for 59 single-family detached homes on individual lots of record. And so they decreased the density by 35 dwelling units from what you saw back in 2025. And the decrease in density that they are now proposing does not warrant a sewer allocation variance, as their previous application had warranted a sewer allocation variance. So if this is approved, no sewer allocation variance would be required. They are proposing, as I mentioned, 59 units, which would equate to a density of 4.04 dwelling units per acre. The future land use map of the Murfreesboro 2035 Comprehensive Plan identifies this property as AUR, Auto Urban Residential, and which recommends a density of 4 to 12 dwelling units per acre. At 4.04 dwelling units per acre, this is in line with the comprehensive plan, both in density and in housing type. The Planning Commission conducted a public hearing on this request on May the 6th, at which time it recommended approval to the City Council. I'll be happy to answer any questions, and once again, Mr. Taylor has a presentation to give you.
Matthew, is the exemption being requested, is it 40 or 41 feet or 50 feet that we're talking about?
So they're requesting a minimum of 41-foot wide lots and 4,000 square foot lots, the lot size. This one was one, and I know Mr. Gore has discussed with you the issues with minimum lot widths. This one was already in the pipeline when we began having that discussion. So I think this may be the last one that got in before we had that discussion. And so we kept it moving through the pipeline so as not to unfairly penalize them for after having already gotten started with the process.
Mr. Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Blumley. Thank you, Mayor, members of council. Matt Taylor of SEC. I've got Ms. Chelsea Russell of Lennar Homes with me as well, the applicant on the project. As Mr. Blumley said, this probably looks familiar. It was here late in 2025 with an all-townhouse project. Obviously, you had some concerns with that, so we've come back with an all-detached with a density that I think that you asked for at about 4 units to the acre. So hopefully you agree with that on this revision. As Mr. Blumley said, it's about 14 and a half acres on the west side of Cason Lane, highlighted here in the pink and white. That is the neighborhood, it's the Walmart neighborhood center directly to the south of us, and then Cason Lane directly east of us in the blue. Today, it is zoned a mixture of CF and OG, but the future land use map actually recommends this to be an AUR, which we fall well inside of with density and housing type. This is looking south along Cason Lane. This would be looking onto the property. And this is looking north at the apartment community due north. And this is the apartment community on the other side of the road. and of course, the Walmart neighborhood market. As Mr. Blumey said, it's 59 homes, typical lot size about 41 by 110. Most of them are larger than that. I think we've got one that's right at that minimum. That is outlined in your book. We've got a lot color-coded in there. We've got almost 3 acres of open space that's planned in the central part of the neighborhood. We've got all public streets. We've got 2 connection points back to Cason Lane, and then 1 stub to the west of us and to what's the Bell Tower Farms project there as well. We've located our detention stormwater area on the south side of the entry road, directly backing up to where the neighborhood Walmart, to provide extra separation between us and that development. We've also planned for a 10-foot wide planting yard along that north side where we back up to or adjoin the apartments, to create additional separation between them and our homes. And this is that color exhibit. You can see we've got 1 lot that's right at the minimum. The rest are closer to 4,500 to 45,000. Again, these will not be sold in bulk to a rental development. They will be for sale on individual lots of record. All these owners will again have to be a member of an HOA. That HOA will be managed by the third party. It will take care of all of our open spaces and enforce our restrictive covenants. These setbacks are very similar. They're 35 feet on the front, 5 on the side, and 20 on the rear. Our homes can be a 1 or 2 story, maximum height of 35, and at least 2 bedrooms. All of our homes will start at a minimum of 1,600 square feet, and will have 2-car front entry garages, and then have 4 cars in the driveway. Our fronts will have at least a 36-inch water table and then an 18-inch minimum on the sides and rears. Some example elevations. And then we also worked closely with utilities to plan those services and driveway locations. As I mentioned, all the streets here will be public. The yellow will be 3 lanes to account for future access to those commercial out parcels along Cason Lane. The red will be more of the standard 2-lane, 42-foot wide neighborhood streets. And then the blue is going to be 2-lane, but it's acting as a collector that will be extended into the neighboring property. Our typical street standards match the city's street specs, not asking for any exceptions or changes there. Again, our amenities will be a pet park, some walking trails, seating areas. They're located in the central part of the neighborhood. This is, again, a relatively small development, easily accessible by walking. So we think these will be very popular with our residents. And then we plan for 10-foot wide in the green along that north and east where we back up to the commercial or the apartments. We will have some more berming and buffering along the sides and rears of our homes that back up to the extension of Foxcroft there. And then we'll have some stormwater beautification around the detention pond. And then I will be happy to answer any questions now or after your hearing.
Mr. Taylor, there's a tree line on the southwest side. We've had some past issues. Is there any trees that are not in their property or other areas that will be clear cut or taken down?
No, sir. And with those, we have started to identify that we're going to start doing a tree preservation plan, and not only us, but as well as a city inspector is going to go out and look at that prior to them receiving grading permits.
Okay.
So we're going to take some proactive measures because of those challenges that we've had in the past.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right, any other questions? All right, we'll need to open the public hearing to consider the rezoning of this approximately 14.61 acres. Anyone wishing to speak for or against, please come to the podium. All right, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. We'll now consider on first reading ordinance 260Z25. Have a motion?
Second.
And a second. Ms. Tucker, please call the roll.
Ms. Gels Harris.
Aye.
Mr. Maxwell.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Shacklet.
Aye.
Mr. Wade. Mr. Wright.
Aye.
Mayor McFarland.
Aye. All right, let's move to all those on ordinance. We'll move to ordinance 26022, fiscal year 27. This is the tax rate adoption.
Mayor McFarland, may I say something really quickly?
Sure.
I believe this is the last city council meeting for our principal planner, Ms. Holly Smith, who worked on the last two of those items that were presented tonight. She is retiring on July the 17th. Ms. Smith is a very hard worker, very dedicated, puts in long hours, and we really appreciate having her these last 5.5 years. Even as some people with 2 weeks left until retirement would go into cruise control, she is diligently making sure that she's tying up all of her loose ends, and we just wanted to let her know that we really appreciate her.
And she's an accomplished guitar player as well. So she plays.
Saying if we'd voted it down, she would stay on for a little while.
Thank you.
Congratulations on your retirement, Holly. All right, let's move to lots more less exciting things. The first reading of ordinance 26022. This is our tax rate adoption. Ms. Tucker.
Yes, we have the new certified tax rate for your approval tonight. The tax rate reflects the increased valuations as part of the county's property reappraisal program, which occurs every 4 years. In order to equalize our property tax revenues with last year's amount, the certified tax rate is dropping from 95.26 cents to 75.29 cents. I'm happy to answer any questions and recommend for approval.
I think we've all gotten lots of comments on the reassessment values that you're getting in the mail. I don't want to give the political answer, but one, we're not involved in any part or process of the reassessment. But the second thing, I think we've had lots of conversations with the property assessor over this past week. There is a smart Rutherford app for the 4 or 5 people of y'all who are watching tonight. If you'll go to that smart Rutherford, if you'll put your property value in, you can look at where your property value and your assessment value stands. Also remembering that the current real estate market and the assessed value are two separate things. That's been a lot of the discussions that we've been having. So please do that. And then if you have any questions whatsoever, you can contact any of us that are sitting up here. And if we don't have the answer, we can get you to the appropriate person who can help you with that.
Is this a state required, mandatory?
Yeah, so every 4 years,
Every 4 years.
your property's reassessed. So our rate came back countywide 26% average increase over the last 4 years. But that doesn't mean, there's a lot of people who've reached out to me, and I think they're working with the property assessor who their assessment was way higher than 26%. So the one thing for the resident to also know, we appoint 2 members to the County Board of Equalization. So if you are not happy with your assessment and you feel like that is incorrect, it is your right to be able to go petition that is wrong, and you can go be heard in front of that board. That board is a citizen board that's put together. They will look at the data and then come up with a determination on whether you are granted an appeal or not.
Mayor, I want to commend you for the videos and stuff that you've done to try to help people understand this appears to be extremely complicated, but there's a limited time. If you're going to appeal that evaluation to the Equalization Board or to the Appeals Board, you have a month, isn't it, from
I believe that's
August?
right. It is printed on the reassessment notice that
you have a
the
limited
home, that the owners received. So that, I think it's in red at the bottom, how they can go about that appeal process.
But once it gets past that date, it's locked in. So I encourage you, if you feel like your evaluation needs to be looked at, do it and don't put it on the shelf. And, the idea is that once you get past that date, there's no appeals. It is what it is.
Yeah, now I want everyone, again, who has any questions to contact us, but this is mandated by state law. There's not anyone, including Aaron, who deals with this, that we have anything to do with assessed values. Zero. Our equalization rate, you'll see our tax rate is going down from 95 cents to 75 cents, but in full transparency, that does not mean that you will be paying less taxes. There are people who will be paying less taxes on their assessed value. There are people who will be paying the same. And if your property appreciated higher than that 26%, and unfortunately what I'm seeing, your homes that are in a 250 to 400, 500 range are the ones that have really appreciated over the last 4 years. And so what you're seeing is your commercial values in some sense have even declined in some places. So we want to be here to help. We want to be here, and I sent this to Aaron. I don't fully understand how the values were calculated, and I think that's something we're continually asking questions. But if you have any questions, please contact us, and we will get you with the appropriate people.
But to your point, this was a state mandated every 4 years. This is not a issue of somebody doesn't like somebody and the comptroller's coming in. This is a mandatory 4 years. And if you don't like it, to Bill's point, appeal it. But
Yeah.
appeal it by the date on the notice.
And I sat back because, I went back and looked at 4 years ago and even looking at emails, and this is something that happens every 4 years. And unfortunately, no one likes to pay more on property taxes. I think the city council has had one true tax increase in over 30 years, so I can 100% tell you there's no one that is sitting at this podium that wants to raise your property taxes. We've done everything we possibly can to not raise your property taxes, including selling a utility company that continually brings in lots of money for us to not have to raise your taxes. So this is not some kind of back-ended way or backdoor way for the city of Murfreesboro to get more revenue. That is just not the case. So, all right. Do we have a motion and a second on that? Motion?
So moved.
Motion and a second. Ms. Tucker, please call the roll.
Ms. Gels Harris.
Aye.
Mr. Maxwell.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Shacklet.
Aye.
Mr. Wade.
Aye.
Mr. Wright.
Aye.
Mayor McFarland.
Aye. All right, let's move to ordinance 26027, rules of the road adoption into Murfreesboro City Code.
So a lot of work on this was done Jennifer Tagg. But as you probably know, we've been working with the police department. They're trying to transition back to e-citations. And so one thing that we've noticed is that currently the municipal code has not adopted the rules of the road or the other enumerated non-moving violations that you see there, which are like registration, lighting, insurance, those types of things. And so by adopting this, it makes it more direct for either people receiving a warning, it's for the courts, for the defendants to know exactly the language of the law that they were cited for. So we wanted to mirror TCA. So in other words, just to give you an example to explain, so TCA 55.8.152 is just general speed limits. So if you're stopped by a deputy or a state trooper, that's what they're going to charge you with. For city government, if a city police officer pulls you over and you receive a citation, it's a civil infraction instead of a criminal infraction. And there's a corresponding municipal code. So we could have 32.501 with maximum limits, 32.502 altered speed zone. So we just want to create some uniformity because when those citations are issued and the court then moves those to the Department of Safety, there has to be a corresponding code, as you know, as they apply points. And so this just makes it easier for the citizens, for the court, and also for the police department.
Great work. Any questions?
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion is second. Please call the roll.
Ms. Gels Harris. Mr. Maxwell.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Shacklet.
Aye.
Mr. Wade.
Aye.
Mr. Wright.
Aye.
Mayor McFarland.
Aye. All right, let's move to on motion. Asbury Lane Professional Services Supplement Number 1.
Hey, good evening, Mayor, members of council. I appreciate the opportunity to present this to you tonight. Council's previously approved a design contract with Weiser, who's now HMB, for the realignment of Asbury Lane. This project would move the existing intersection over to the east to create a roundabout at Conference Center Boulevard and Wilkinson Pike. So as the design and the negotiations with the Williamson Farm have progressed, we've identified the need for some additional survey, roadway, drainage, and landscaping work that was outside the original scope of that first contract. So staff's requesting approval of a supplement for this work in the amount of $155,635, which can be funded from the FY22 CIP budget. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions?
Second.
Motion is second. Please call the roll.
Ms. Gels Harris. Mr. Maxwell.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Shacklet.
Aye.
Mr. Wade.
Aye.
Mr. Wright.
Aye.
Mayor McFarland.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, let's move to item 15, Retail Liquor Store Certificate of Compliance Annual Report.
Yes, sir. We have the annual report for our certificate of compliance tonight. We currently have 30 licensed stores in the city. Our population's estimates increased to 171,178 this year, which allows for an additional certificate to be issued. We also had one certificate expire at June 30 that the owner did not want to renew. This means we have 2 certificates available for this year, which brings our total up to 34 from 33, and we will advertise those, I believe it's the July 13th, 14th, and 15th in the D&J, that the certificates are available and the application process is open. If there are more than 2 eligible applicants, we will need to hold a lottery at a future meeting. This is information only for you, just to let you know that we will be advertising for those open certificates.
And
So if you had 10 applicants, 10 names go in and you draw 2.
Correct.
So
And the mayor
Scales-
gets to draw.
Scales Shacklet and
Or a foot
Scales and
race in
Shacklet
City
get the liquor license.
What's that?
a foot race in City Hall.
Yeah.
Hey,
No foot races.
Any questions for Ms. Tucker? It would be important to note, we got the email sent from Representative Stevens this week that gave the Boyd Center population at 171 and some change.
It actually matched the census.gov estimates. So, yep.
But where credit is due, the bill that Representative Stevens carried to be able to use that, I think it brought in how much additional revenue to the city of Murfreesboro? Shared state revenue?
So that email was actually from Amanda letting him know how much we had estimated on there. So we're not sure yet entirely how much that will come out to. We estimated approximately $1 million in growth from state shared revenue, but we'll have to see once all of the population estimates are distributed, how that shakes out.
All right, let's move to the Murfreesboro Medical Clinic contract amendment.
Good afternoon, Mayor and council and staff. Thank you for hearing me on Chief McCluskey's behalf. We have for your consideration a contract amendment with Murfreesboro Medical Clinic. We have been contracted with them since 2020 for them to perform our annual physicals and cancer screenings. It's worked out very well, the partnership between them and us. They're very thorough with their physicals for us, and they been very accommodating in their scheduling with our nearly 250 employees. The current contract has expired recently, June 18th of 2026. It is a renewable up to 3 times for 12-month period. And so we ask for your consideration to please allow us to extend this contract for another 12 months. The total cost would be $122,000, and it would be funded by our operating budget.
Second.
Motion second, please call the roll.
Ms. Gels Harris. Mr. Maxwell.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Shacklet.
Aye.
Mr. Wade.
Aye.
Mr. Wright.
Aye.
Mayor McFarland.
Aye. All right, let's move to, thank you. Item 17, the magnetic forensics software license renewal. Chief.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. For your consideration this evening is the request to approve a 12-month renewal of the Gray Key software license with Magnet Forensics. The Gray Key software is used by our CID division to extract digital files and information from things like cell phones. We've been using this software successfully since 2020. The cost, $134,340 is provided for in the department's FY27 operating budget. I can answer any
moved.
questions.
Second.
Motion second, please call the roll.
Ms. Gels Harris. Mr. Maxwell.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Shacklet.
Aye.
Mr. Wade.
Aye.
Mr. Wright.
Aye.
Mayor McFarland.
Aye. All right, let's move to the next item that Chief will handle, purchase of mobile data terminals.
Yes, sir. For your consideration is the purchase of 62 new mobile data terminals for police vehicles. These are part of our schedule replacements. It's a part of our 5-year replacement schedule. The total expense for this purchase is $279,999, and it's funded from the FY26 CIP budget.
So moved.
Second.
Motion second, please call the roll.
Ms. Gels Harris. Mr. Maxwell.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Shacklet.
Aye.
Mr. Wade.
Aye.
Mr. Wright.
Aye.
Mayor McFarland.
Aye. Thank you, Chief. All right, let's move to the contract with Regional Transportation Authority.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. The Transportation Department is recommending your approval of a contract with the Regional Transportation Authority to subsidize regional bus service between Murfreesboro and Nashville. Each year, the RTA determines local subsidies based on ridership and congestion mitigation and air quality funds. In addition to the city's funds and FTA funding, the service is also subsidized by MTSU, Rutherford County, and Davidson County. Murfreesboro's total share for FY27 is $78,750 and will be paid for with 50% federal funds, 40% state, and 10% local. This expenditure is funded through our department budget, and I'll be happy to answer your questions. So moved.
Motion second, please call the roll.
Ms. Gels Harris. Mr. Maxwell.
Nay.
Vice Mayor Shacklet.
Aye.
Mr. Wade.
Aye.
Mr. Wright.
Aye.
Mayor McFarland.
Aye. All right, let's move to item 20, construction contract with Keystone Partners LLC.
All right, the Transportation Department is recommending your approval of a construction contract with Keystone Partners LLC to construct and install bus shelters along Murfreesboro transit routes. In January 2022, City Council approved a contract with Kimley Horn to complete a route and shelter study. 32 shelter sites were located and 7 will be installed this year. Bids for construction were opened June 3rd. After review and analysis by Kimley Horn, Keystone Partners was determined to be the lowest responsive bidder with a bid amount of $276,660. The cost will be paid for with 80% federal funds, 10% state, 10% local, making the city's share $27,666. This expenditure is funded by the department's FY27 budget. I'll be happy to answer your questions.
Motion second, please call the roll.
Ms. Gels Harris. Mr. Maxwell.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Shacklet.
Aye.
Mr. Wade.
Aye.
Mr. Wright.
Aye.
Mayor McFarland.
Aye. All right, let's move to the 2025 sewer rehab Little John Associates Task Order Amendment Number 1.
Yes. Both of my items tonight, Mayor and Council, are about our sewer rehab project. The first is request is a task order amendment for LJA for construction administration. There have been changes to the scope of work. We have, part of those changes have been development community warranty issues on their sewer pipes. We have partnered with them to add some rehab to their newly installed pipe that has had problems with the liner inside of it. So we're going to align that with our sewer rehab project. Although they are funding their own, they are paying for that to be added to our contract. We have had previous rehab warranty issues of our own that LJA has coordinated with us between the rehab company, lining company, and then we've also added some pump station suction lines to the project. This amendment is in the amount of $31,436, and it'll bring their total task order amendment to almost $484,000, and we would ask for approval. Be happy to answer any questions.
So moved.
Second.
Motion second, please call the roll.
Ms. Gels Harris.
Aye.
Mr. Maxwell.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Shacklet.
Aye.
Mr. Wade.
Aye.
Mr. Wright.
Aye.
Mayor McFarland.
Aye. All right, let's move to item 22, the 2025 sewer rehab contract change order number 1.
Yes. This change order is mainly to add contract time of 26 days to the contract. We are in a balance of the quantities that have been used and some that have been taken out of the project, as well as adding in the warranty issues, the lining issues. And so we are decreasing the contract amount in the amount of $2,844, but ask the contractor, because we've had some coordination with on warranty issues and adding to the project for those development warranty sewer lines, they're asking for 26 days, and we would recommend approval. Or request approval.
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion second, please call the roll.
Ms. Gels Harris.
Aye.
Mr. Maxwell.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Shacklet.
Aye.
Mr. Wade.
Aye.
Mr. Wright.
Aye.
Mayor McFarland.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, you have Construction Board of Adjustments reappointments. You have 4 people who are asking to be reappointed.
So moved.
Second.
Do we need to do each of these individually, or can we do them all at one time?
Each person, or?
Okay. Okay, let's, if y'all hold on your motion a second, we have Construction Board of Adjustments reappointments, we have a Golf Commission reappointments, and a Board of Zoning Appeals appointment. Mike Panisi is the new person to serve on the Board of Zoning Appeals. Can we get a motion for those 3 boards and commissions?
Mr. Mayor, I've looked at all the names, and I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion is second. Please call the roll.
Ms. Gels Harris.
Aye.
Mr. Maxwell.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Shacklet.
Aye.
Mr. Wade.
Aye.
Mr. Wright.
Aye.
Mayor McFarland.
Aye. All right. Any beer permits?
We have 5 regular beer permits and 1 special event tonight. The first regular permit is for an ownership change of a restaurant located at 307 North Thompson Lane. We have a new grocery market located at 1722 South Rutherford Boulevard, Suite D. 2 new restaurants located at 119 North Thompson Lane and 107 North Thompson Lane, and an ownership or name change of a restaurant located at 2227 Old Fort Parkway. The special event permit is for Main Street on July 18th for the Taste of Rutherford located at 900 North Manny Avenue. All applicants have met our requirements, and we recommend for approval pending any final building and codes inspections.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Please call the roll.
Ms. Gels Harris. Mr. Maxwell.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Shacklet.
Aye.
Mr. Wade.
Aye.
Mr. Wright.
Aye.
Mayor McFarland.
Aye. Any statements to be paid?
No, sir.
Any other business from staff? We've got a busy weekend starting tomorrow. 6 o'clock will be the, I don't want to say the unveiling because it's been unveiled, but it will be the dedication for the 250 mural that was put up on a very well-known business here in Murfreesboro. And then there's that's right. Then there's a concert on the square that starts at 6:30.
Correct.
Then we will start our 250 celebration on Saturday. And there's lots going on throughout the city, but the fireworks starts, Darren, what time on?
when it's dark.
So that'll be at our location that we've had for the last many years in the Gateway. Lots of places around the Gateway area that you can park and see those. So it wouldn't, I think we'd be remiss without saying this, leaving tonight, that 250 years of our country, there's a lot that we're blessed with, but also for us not to forget the men and women who not only continue to serve, but will be serving our community over the July 4th holiday. So we want to thank all of them who are going to be working in our police department, our fire department, our dispatch rooms, all those places that they're going to be working, our Parks and Recreation team that will be working long hours over the next many days to make sure that Murfreesboro can celebrate our 250-year anniversary.
Everybody stay safe.
That's right. Stay safe, and if you need a ride, Uber. We don't want you meeting our Murfreesboro police officers. Yes, sir.
And in the spirit of 4th of July, I left home from Afghanistan on July 4th, 2005. That was 21 years ago. And Terry Spence was 19 years on the Murfreesboro Police Force, and he's going to be retiring July the 9th after 40 years of service. So it's not 250 years of service for Terry, but it's 40 years of service. So thank him for all his service. And for tomorrow, special prayers for our Councilwoman Ava Water with the loss of her stepmother.
Amen. We had, Chief, I think, is already gone, but they had a ceremony for Terry today, and lots of funny stories. So anyone who knows Officer Spence knows that he's a good storyteller. So we're going to miss seeing him at City Hall. So with that, we'll stand adjourned.